Three, two, one.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to our podcast about examining Love Island USA through a feminist lens. My name's Bella,
My name's Chloe.
My name is Sky.
My name is Joanna.
and today we're going to talk about Love Island through a feminist lens, broadly speaking. So first, we're going to start off with phase one of feminism, which is the representation of women. So essentially, we wanted to talk about how women in Love Island are portrayed as often like promiscuous or I don't know, unladylike kind of. Um, and like how that can like ruin their reputation after they get off the show. So often we know that women are reduced to stereotypes, like on TV, not just on reality TV, but everywhere. And specifically, we wanted to highlight in the most recent season of Love Island USA, we wanted to talk about Huda being kind of seen as like extremely like aggressive and like over emotional, kind of, if that's the right word, and how that like really damaged her reputation. Even before like she was off the show, like she was getting like really, really hated on. Um, and she did do some questionable things, I think. Like she was a little bit like I can't remember everything she did. Do you guys remember? Like,
I think
I
she
just
was just highly
remember,
emotional.
yeah,
hmm
she was like very emotional, like definitely was like acting before she was like thinking, I think a lot of the time. And so people just kind of like took that and ran with it and like were like calling her all sorts of names. And like I remember I feel like they like found like who her daughter was or something like that. And like
hmm
all this stuff. And they just, I don't know, they like got into her personal life a lot and like really like punished her for like, I don't know, like loving on Love Island. Like, I don't know. It was very, very, it was a lot, I think. And there's also like, we noticed a lot of like patriarchal stereotypes around her. And like just negative stereotypes about like women and like being like promiscuous or, I don't know, seen as like sort of a whore, for lack of a better word. Um, like there was one episode in particular where Huda did like a certain dance move that led people to believe that she may have been a stripper in a past life. And like after that, I think her like negative press really like went off the rails and like people were like went from just like actually analyzing like her actions and her words and stuff to just like labeling her as like a stripper, like a sex worker, like just very, very talking negatively on her for that type of work. Um, Even though we didn't know the circumstances of her situation. We didn't know why she might have been in that line of work. We didn't know like how long. We didn't know anything. It's just people started like really talking very, very bad about her. It kind of made me feel bad, even though she was a little bit reactive, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think Huda's really interesting just because she definitely was very hostile, but
Mhm.
I think, edited her to be just so over the
Yeah.
top, you know?
Yeah. Like super, super, like,
Like almost violent.
yeah, like sort of, yeah, like it almost like read as violent. And I think like, I feel like I remember like seeing people after they got eliminated talk about how like it was her actions and like everybody's actions were like represented differently um,
hmm
than how they actually happened. And um, I just wanted to cite the Lori Ouellette and Susan Murray document that we read earlier in the semester called Introduction to Reality TV Making Remaking Television Culture. um, in that they mention that reality TV promises access to real people and real life, but it never simply shows reality as it is. Instead, it openly combines authenticity with performance. Participants are real people, but their stories are shaped through editing, staging, and competition. And it's like we have to acknowledge that a lot of this like these like reality TV shows where like women are kind of like the center of it or like finding love is the center of it, like they're not documentaries, like they're not like always the most faithful portrayal of like these people's actual like lives and opinions. They're more like for entertainment purposes and like I don't know. I think sometimes like the criticism of like the women specifically like can get really really messy.
I agree with that. I like that you pointed out like it's not a documentary. That's a really good way
Hmm.
to look at it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Thanks. Thank you.
Um, and I feel like your point kind of segues into like the second wave of feminism, as described by Peter Barry,
Hmm.
where women are seen and they're heard, but they're edited to be a certain way. And I think that on the show, they're definitely edited to uphold patriarchal standards. I mean, these girls are talking to each other like 24/7 on this
Hmm.
island. And I think all the conversations I've seen from them are talking about men or like being chosen or getting picked,
Hmm.
looking a certain way. Like, I don't think any of these conversations are passing the Bechdel test,
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're not, I don't think they're talking about these guys 24/7 all day. Like, it's obviously edited to appear that way.
Hmm.
And I think that also plays into kind of what Bella was saying, like creating stereotypes for these girls. Like with Huda, I think, she was portrayed as being like a really angry person.
Hmm.
I think for some of these girls, like I know there was one girl 2 years ago who was like nonstop crying 24/7, and they
Hmm.
edited her to be like kind of a very emotional crybaby, not level-headed.
Yeah.
hmm
And then I think like the flip side of that is like we never see that from the men. Like they're always super
Hmm.
calm and like level-headed and
Hmm.
Mm.
just like cool. Like
Hmm.
they never freak out or have problems or like jealous
Right.
like
And I
the
feel like
women
they
are edited
portray the
to.
boys as like always being friends versus like they try to pit the girls against each other.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Stereotypical cat fights.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. And I think they try to like box women into like being like jealous ex, like the seductress. I remember Huda and a girl got into a whole fight over that like
hmm
Oh,
dynamic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Where like I think even the guys were getting involved, being like, this
Hmm.
is getting too hostile or something.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just think it's definitely edited to stereotype women where men are seen as like calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah. Like you never
Right.
really see the men in the show like having screaming matches or anything like that. And I feel like sometimes, like, at least I've heard like from interviews like after the season is over and stuff, like the producers and stuff will like go up to the contestants or like let them know like hey like you should talk to this person about this or like I don't know
Mhm.
kind of like egging them on like you said to like start a fight or like pit certain people against each other and I
Mhm.
feel like it just doesn't happen with the male contestants as much as it happens with the female contestants because it's like they
Yeah.
think people want to see these women screaming at each other like
Hmm.
that's so crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that all also ties into Barry's third phase, which is gender as a performance.
Mhm.
And Love Island reflects the third phase because the audience expects something very fixed versus like just naturally how the contestants are. And
Mhm.
like what I mean by that is there's a lot of social expectations about masculinity and femininity, and especially under the pressure of cameras and editing and then public opinion, both while they're
Mhm.
in the villa and once the contestants leave the villa, it's
Mhm.
all just very prominent. Um, on the side of the women, we often see someone sort of get casted or portrayed as there will be like the cool girl or there's the really loyal one. Like the really loyal one would be maybe like Kaylor a couple of seasons ago, really loyal to Aaron no matter what he did. Or there's kind of the, I hate to say crazy, but like I feel like they try to make someone look crazy, like how we were saying
Mhm.
Huda. Um, and for the women, we kind of touched on this, but the second they're too emotional, they become crazy, or like the cool girl will be like, I think of Liv from a couple of seasons ago because she was standing up for the girls. And that's great, but it's again boxing women in to be this one thing that the producers want them to be. And I
Mhm.
think that all just ties into the producers really pressure the women to play into these feminine roles. And the women on the show are pressured to balance being open while also keeping their composure and then being like really attractive and everything and like getting the guys to like them while also being loyal
Mhm.
and they're supposed to care but they can't be too much.
Yeah.
So I think all of that just contributes to boxing them in and ties
Mhm.
into Barry's third point. And then on the other side, I actually think that the men on the show get boxed in to perform in masculine ways as well.
Mhm.
Mhm.
An example of this is like 2 seasons ago with Rob. Specifically, he was like his big meltdown where he was crying over Leah and he got in the
Mhm.
pool and all the things. Like yes, it was a little bit dramatic, but the backlash online, like to this day, I still see things about him
Mhm.
like crying and being
Mhm.
upset and like that just goes to show that he did something that is not stereotypically masculine. Like he was crying and very open about his emotions and
Mhm.
he received a lot of backlash.
Mhm.
So I think on both sides it really shows like both women and men being boxed in. And this all
Yeah.
connects to Barry because it's just like the binaries. It's essentially
Mhm.
like being very masculine or very feminine or being emotional or rational or you're passive or you're dominant. Like
Mhm.
boxing people in, it all ties back to that.
It's
Very
like they're
much.
reverting. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was saying it's almost like they're even like reverting back to like typical high school stuff, like even
Yes.
down to the cliques and the gossip. It's just also just inane and just ridiculous at certain points.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree
Absolutely.
that it's ridiculous, but it gets talked about by people on social media, so I guess
Mhm.
that's why they do it.
Mhm. And
I
I feel
think
like,
another thing I want to talk about with the gender as performance is like the ritual of every morning of the girls getting ready and doing their makeup while the guys make them breakfast and like go work
mm,
out. Like I
Yeah,
just
that's
think
yes.
so
that's like a
true.
really funny example because it's so habitual. Like I think they have to do it every morning or something.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there's a lot of nuance with it.
Mm,
Like the guys bring specific girls or like breakfast or bring more than one girl breakfast too just creates more tension and kind of
yeah.
like asserts back to those roles of like those stereotypes of like jealous or like seductress or
Mm,
crazy.
mm. You're
Right.
right. I feel like pretty much like every episode like starts off that way, kind of for the most part. Like it'll be like, okay, everybody's waking up and the girls like automatically all go to like do their makeup. And like I've seen like one season of Love Island UK and it's like the same thing. I thought maybe it would be
Yeah.
different on Love Island US, but no, it's like
I
it's
think
to the
it's the same
point.
for all Love Islands.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I feel like it's one of those things where the producers are like, okay, girls, like all go get up and like go do your makeup, get dressed for the day. And like you never see people repeat the same outfits. Like they're expected to
Mhm.
like, be very put together and like beautiful at all times. And the men all go work out every single day and like, have little competitions about like who can lift more, like that kind of stuff. Like, and it's funny, it's like entertaining, but it is very much like I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, like those gender stereotypes that you come to think of, like men and women as like growing up, like that's all they care about. Boys work out
Right.
and girls put on makeup. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think Love Island is just such an like glaring example
mm,
of yeah, exactly what Barry was discussing about gender performance of like being very feminine and very masculine and like
hmm
that's obviously problematic, like not an ideal example of quote unquote real people.
right.
Right.
One thing that I think might be kind of related, just with the pressure of like getting a bad edit or something, is this show has like a pretty high suicide rate. I think 4 people have killed themselves coming off of the show.
Oh,
I did not know
really?
that.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that
and
either.
then I do think the edits and the stereotyping plays like a huge role in that,
That's
at
true.
least coming from
Mhm.
the things they have said before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Building off of that, just considering the postmodernism aspect of reality TV in general, it seems so such like a common denominator that these supposed reality shows, they're not reality really much
Mhm.
at all. Everything is created by the producers. They're creating the storylines. They're, like you were saying, they're making the villains, the good guys, the good girls. They're like generating who's the favorite and who everybody's going to hate, and then whoever everyone hates, how much drama can they like create so that they can just get more views. And
Mhm.
that's literally all it's about, is just getting views and achieving the aesthetic. And in reality, the authenticity itself just goes down the deeper that you get into it. And I found and a few interviews online that were actually talking to ex reality stars for Love Island in particular. And this definitely showed me personally where postmodernism came in, the idea that reality and performance started to just blur together to the point that you really can't fully separate what's authentic from what's produced. Because while Love Island is technically unscripted, contestants themselves have said that although no one is literally handing them a script of things to say, it's very clear what the producers are guiding them to do. For
Mhm.
example, in some of the interviews I found, um, Hugo Godfrey said that Love Island was definitely not scripted. And he said, what you say is what you say. Although, following that, Jess White added, everything I said, but it's an edited show. So like,
Mhm.
everything they're saying comes out of their mouths, but you can edit anything together to like look more dramatic than it is, or make them like make something seem like something that wasn't even portrayed as in the first place based on like good editing. Um,
Hmm.
I furthermore, I found another one from Jay Younger who said, we've been told our lines, like come in, say sorry, I'm late to the party. There's a few things that are scripted, certain things you say, like say this to this girl or that girl, like um there's been instances where people have had to break up with their significant other more than once because their mics weren't on. So they had to redo it all over again.
Oh my God.
And and it really does make sense because think about, I mean, it's what, 30, 45 minute show out of a 24-hour day. They're
Mhm.
picking, choosing what we get to see. So we have no idea what we're missing. And like you were saying before, like characters like Leah, who's portrayed more negatively, or characters like Rob from, I think that was 2024, who people were really looking at him in a positive light. He was really popular. It's
Mhm.
just, although it's not an entire like script that they're given, I think that's with these interviews and just what we've seen in general, it's definitely curated to
Mhm.
see what's going to get the best reaction. Um,
That's true.
Hmm.
sorry, I found a lot from these interviews. So,
No, that's good.
No, yeah. Keep
uh,
going.
where Jay Younger was saying he came at the producers saying that they were good at emotional manipulation, that
Mhm.
they'll hype certain contestants up and they'll put other ones down. They'll like try to affect how they're feeling and then thus how they're going to act in the show. Um,
Hmm.
let's see, what else was I finding? Another thing that was from Megan Barden Hansen. She was saying that, you know how I found it interesting that we're seeing this, we think it's real TV, that these are real relationships that are happening right before our very eyes. It's the whole like magic of the show. But she was saying that these contestants, you're not even allowed to flirt in the pool because there's no microphones. So they're like, what the
Yes.
flirt,
Yeah.
like if we can't catch on camera. So in reality, even if they want to say things to each other in a person they're genuinely interested in, they're not always allowed to.
Mhm. That's
Hmm.
true.
Oh, and the girl that I said that she had to redo her breakup scene because they couldn't hear her on the mic was Olivia Atwood. Um, but yeah, I was just not necessarily shocked. It was just really interesting to see just to what level that
Mhm.
the producers will go to keep people entertained and just absolutely like prioritize audience engagement over the people that are actually on the show, kind of defeating the purpose of what they're portraying the show to be. They're portraying it as like, oh, you're gonna find love. This is all about like you finding your person, and the drama just happens to happen. Like
Yeah.
it's just,
Hmm.
it's not like we want that to happen. It's just happened to happen. But reality, the entire thing is based on how much drama they can curate.
That's
And
true.
so, yeah, overall, I just found that as considering postmodernism, Love Island, while it presents itself as reality, it's really a constructed version of reality,
Mhm.
blending real emotions from the actors, but also mixing it with performance, which is why I honestly think it's hard for a lot of these contestants to walk away and have a successful relationship. It's just rare
Hmm.
because so much of it was, how do I say, like just
Constructed.
yeah, exactly.
True.
Um, yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
You make some really good points.
Yeah.
I also have seen people come off the show and say they're never going to work with Love Island again.
Yeah.
Leah, for example, and I think that's just really telling to how they were treated by producers. And it's just more confirmation that it's all curated
Mhm.
and not as authentic as we think.
True.
Mhm.
100%. Hmm.
Yeah. I forgot about the narrator guy too. What's his name? Um, you know what I'm talking
The
about? Like,
the British one,
yeah, he's like British or Scottish or something, and he
I don't
narrates
know
like
his
every
name.
episode, right? But he's like,
Hmm.
I forgot about him, like Joanna, when you were saying like how it's very like filtered. Like he starts off every episode with like his little funny comments about like kind of his opinion of the like the cast and stuff. And so I just think that that even is like I don't know, affects like the viewers' opinions of the people on the show and specifically like the women because he's always like I don't know, like he's nice, he's funny, but he's putting his opinion in there for sure. And
Definitely.
so
Hmm.
I think it just extends everywhere. Like even the narrator is not um like subjective or objective. Like
Yeah.
Definitely.
mm,
I know we still have our thesis. Did anyone else have any other thoughts or further continuation of their topics?
I feel like we kind of covered everything, how to blend together well.
Yeah, I
mhm,
think we covered a
Hmm.
lot.
Fantastic. Then I will close us out with our overall thesis, which is while Love Island presents itself as a reality show about authentic relationships, a feminist and postmodern analysis reveals that it actually reinforces gender stereotypes, limits women's voices through producer control, and constructs identity through performance and editing, showing that what appears real is actually shaped by media power and sadly narrative manipulation.
Hmm.
perfect.
Yay, good job,
Yay!
guys.
Yay!
Um,
Hey, goodbye. I'm gonna stop recording.